Hello, this is your virtual life coach, Michael Lewis. Let's talk about being sure and being certain. Uncertainty stalks the globe. It makes people die before their time, bolting their doors, worrying about what's happening in the next moment, let alone the next hour. You see it every day. What's going to happen next? You read it on the media and in the internet. It's like, what? Just don't know. There's uncertainty. So people like to be certain. People feel reassured when they're certain. When people are certain, they tend to be focused and directed. They tend to be unwavering. When they say they're going to do something, they are committed. There's a huge difference between being 99.99999% committed and being 100% committed. Huge, colossal difference. And the cool thing about certainty is that it breeds more certainty, just as uncertainty breeds more uncertainty. Now, according to research, humans and domestic pets are apparently the only creatures that exhibit uncertainty and non-commitment. Take a lion. What do lions do? They hunt and they kill and they eat. That's what they do. They go out and they hunt and they kill and they eat. They're pretty certain of that. You never hear of a lion just sort of saying, he goes under a tree and he says, I don't feel like doing this anymore. This really sucks. I don't know what I want to do with my life. No, they're going out there, they're hunting and killing and having a great time. When was the last time that you were so certain about something that you committed 100% and you made something happen? And it happened and it was good. There are some people in this world who would heave such a sigh of relief just to find one thing of which they were sure. One thing of which they had absolutely no doubt about whatsoever. How about this one? Have you ever been totally, completely certain about a course of action or a person you really trusted, or you really counted on something or somebody, and then something came up and it just upset the whole thing, and then you weren't so certain anymore and things started getting complicated and not so much fun in that thing, that whatever it was that you were attempting to do? Well, that's how that works. That's how that works. Now, there's two kinds of certainty. There's actual certainty, and then there's artificial certainty. Artificial certainty is just what it sounds like. It's certainty that's manufactured, like through drugs, unreality, non-observation. Wow, this is going to be so cool. That's not the kind of certainty that we're talking about. We're talking about actual certainty. People who are kind of artificially certain are very uncomfortable to be around because they themselves are walking unrealities. Actual certainty has something to do more with how much space you think you've got. I will explain. Imagine yourself locked up in a broom closet. You don't have a lot of space. Even if there's room enough for you, you just kind of get this sense of, like being in that garbage compactor from Star Wars, There's not a lot of space there. It's, and you feel a little smaller. Now, what if you were able to emerge from that broom closet and to suddenly be on a big, wide vista, like a mountaintop or an ocean? It's just tons and tons of space as far as you can see. What a wonderful feeling. That's why people take vacations. They go to the mountains or they go to the seashore. They don't go to broom closets usually because people love having lots of space. And with that space comes a certainty about things, a surety about things. There's no corners, there's no limits. It's just infinite. Literally, you're as big as all outdoors. Now, space isn't just created physically by, an accident of location. It's also created by people that we love and we count on. Like a little kid, you would be amazed how much his space depends on two things named mom and dad. Dad is in the living room, mom is upstairs. Little kid is playing in the game room. Everything's fine, He's got his space is all set up. Suddenly, mom runs downstairs and leaves, just leaves. And, she just went out to get some milk or something, or get a can of tuna or whatever, something for dinner or lunch or something like that. But she just suddenly leaves. And you watch the little kid. And very often the little kid's going to be like, you get more and more and more nervous because half of his space is just collapsed. He doesn't know what happened. It's like his whole universe is just sort of half of it's gone, and he's going to start getting more and more upset and doing weird things. And by the time his mom comes back, he's like bouncing off the walls and stuff, and his dad's going nuts. And she walks in the door and he goes, "Mommy!" And he's all wonderful. "How's my little angel today?" And the dad goes, "Rrr." That's all that happened. So remember that with kids. They've got basically two things that really make their space for them, and that's mom and dad. Artists, things that you create your own space. A painter's had a really lousy day. He comes home to his studio. Now he's surrounded by all the familiar things, all of his works and so forth. And he heaves a sigh of relief. I'm home at last with my things. He's created that space. And then, way to really create the space is to take his stuff, put it on the internet, put it on exhibition, put it on Facebook, and his or her space really opens up. When you promote yourself, you're sending things out, which creates more space, pushes the space out instead of keeping it in. See, it's a lot better to push it out. People create space for others by helping them. There was a story some years ago about a Japanese wind phone. This man had lost his cousin. His cousin was his best friend, and really missed him. They were very close. He wanted to somehow keep that line in with his cousin. And so he had an idea. He bought one of these old phone booths. It's like an old British phone booth. It was painted red, and it had old-fashioned rotary phone in it. And behind his house was a hill overlooking a river or an ocean or something. I don't know exactly what, but he put that phone booth on that hill. And whenever he wanted to be in communication with his lost cousin, he would just pick up the phone. He'd just talk on the phone or whatever. It wasn't connected to anything. And he liked to think that his communication was carried on the wind to his lost cousin. So he called it the wind phone. And about a year later, there was, you may remember, there was a big tsunami in Japan. The neighboring villages were destroyed, and there was a lot of loss of life. People had heard of this wind phone, and they began coming over to this man's place uninvited, but they were quiet. They wouldn't go into his house. They'd go around the house to the hill, and they formed a line to this wind phone. And they would consider that, they do whatever, they would talk on the phone to their lost grandmother or their sister or their cousin or something like that, lost family members, ask advice. Some kids would get on the phone, tell their sister or their grandmother how they went in school today. Several thousand people came to this wind phone every year. One lady would just go there and pick up the phone and listen and cry for several minutes and then hang up, and she'd leave feeling reassured and better. All this man was doing really was helping people. And it's an awesome certainty maker while really opening up your space and the other person's space. So the weakest space makers or makers of space are things that move, like friends, like lovers, like pets and people, because people change, people go away, people die, and so forth. And the space collapses and you don't feel so good and you don't feel so certain as you were before. You feel kind of, dislodged, kind of shaky, off balance, and so on. So far and away, the best makers of space makers, are the ones that you create by helping another person, by creating something, by sending something out into the world, by communicating. You're making more space for yourself and for others. So what creates space for you is certainty. What takes away space from you is uncertainty. And just as a little corollary on that, being nervous is basically being uncomfortable in a space. It's like you're in a space, but it's not really yours. You don't really own that space. It's like in elementary school, you suddenly get called to the front to recite and you're not prepared to do it. You didn't do the homework you were supposed to do and now you have to recite in front of the whole class. That is very nervous sort of feeling. You've just been slapped by this girl that you thought liked you, or you have to make some tricky snap judgment and you're not really prepared to do it. See, these things will make you feel like you don't really own space. I remember one of the things that I've done in my life was write movies. So there's this one movie that the director and I were sitting next to each other and we were auditioning people. And for this one part, and this person came, did a good job. This person came, did an okay job. This person came, did a very good job. Then there was this person who came and was just absolutely sensational. Absolutely sensational. And the director turned to me and said, what do you think? And I said, he was really good. He was really, really good. And the director said, he wasn't really that good, but what he did was he came in and he owned the space. He just owned the space. He walked in, he owned you, he owned me, he owned the whole space. So he wasn't nervous at all. He wasn't even performing. He was just owning everything in the space and then doing his job. And he did a good job and he's going to be a star. And I won't mention who he was, but we really wanted to have him and he couldn't make it. He couldn't do the part because he had just gotten a TV gig. And that was that. But I never forgot that. So you walk into a place for a meeting or something like that, just take a moment and just sort of own the place. Just get the idea that you own the whole space with the people in it. They'll feel it. They'll feel it. They're part of you. You're no longer, a visitor to them. So one way to increase how comfortable you are in the space, find things about your situation that you know for sure. The ground beneath your feet, the feet in your shoes, the shirt on your back, all those sort of things. Another way is just to make a decision and stick to it. 100%, not 99.99%. Stick to the decision. That's a great way to build certainty and confidence. Feels great. And if you see someone who is uncomfortable or uncertain, you can make things comfortable for them with a reassuring word or with some help. And remember, when you're opening up their space, you're also adding more space to yourself as well. Helping someone increases both their amount of space and certainty and your amount of space and certainty. So it's a win-win situation. Feels great. We would like to feel that way all the time, wouldn't we? Yes. So let's start now. Find something wherever you are right now, in the room where you're watching this, or if you're watching it outside or whatever, just find something physical, something in that location, some object that you are 1000% is there. Good. Now, think of some future action, no matter how trivial, that you know for positive sure you are going to do. Actual future physical action that you know for positive sure you're going to do. Now, think of some location that's not the location you're in right now, some other location, preferably outside of, your immediate surroundings, your house or your room or whatever. Think of some location that you will be present at that you know for sure. Okay. And I hope that the place that you thought of is a safe place from which you can both look and create space. Yes, that's what we want. So I hope that gave you some interesting kind of new angles on this whole thing of being certain and sure and positive about things. Because that's all I've got to say right now. So if you like this webinar, please be persuaded to like and subscribe and check out my website, areyoualivetoday.com. Meanwhile, love each other, take your vitamins, observe posted speed limits, play nice, and never lose sight of who you are. Never, never, never lose sight of who you are. So long for now.